Okay, we are going to get started here. It is 2 p.m. So uh, let me just start by saying welcome to the TCID web training session. Today we're going to walk through the TCID website, and I will be showing you how to use the various features of the database, including all of the new upgrades we've made in the last year. I'm going to ask that all questions be saved towards the end of the presentation when we will have about a 15 to 20 minute question and answer period. So to start things off, to get to the TCID website, take your internet browser of choice to rsiaarproject.com, which will bring you to this page that I'm showing you right here. Now, the first thing you'll notice, and that I want to point out, are these two links at the top of the page. And these links are actually on every single page of the website. And they'll take you to both the TCID webinar. We are actually recording this session, and it will be available to watch again later if you feel the need for a refresher. And also the TCID user's manual. And that user's manual has quite a bit of the information we'll be going through today in PDF form. So those are available to anyone for reference if you have questions in using the database. So there are two ways to gain access to the TCID website. If you are working or representing a tank car owner, and you are the first user to join the database for that owner, you can submit a request for access from the contact page on the website. Again, you have to be a tank car owner to do this and provide your owner's mark. If you are not a tank car owner, you will have to get access through an owner that is already on the database. So that first account for each company will be considered the point of contact for that group and will only be the only account set up by the system administrators. Then members who are already established on the database can create additional new accounts for other people within their company. So to actually get into the database, you come to this login form, type in your username, which will be your email address, and your password. Oh, we're going to try that again. There we go. First, we'll take you to the home page or your profile manager. And this is where you can find all of the information about your profile, including your name, the email address you're using, which group you are assigned to, and your user type. Now, there are actually 3 different user types on the website. The first is a member account, and members have almost complete access to the website. They can enter, edit, and unsubmit inspection information. They can create, edit, and delete other user accounts within their group. And they have full access to the reporting options on the database. The second user type is actually something we've added relatively recently. We call it the data analyst. And this is like a member, except that they do not have the ability to make or edit other user profiles. So they can still edit and enter inspection information, and they can still access reports. Again, they just basically don't have that administration level privilege. Lastly, we have what we call a delegate. And all a delegate is really allowed to do is enter and submit inspection information. They do not have access to most of the reports, and they cannot create other user accounts. Typically, delegates are the people who are actually working in the shop, who are given access through their clients to input information on the work they've been doing. So below the user type is an area where you can reset your password, and it lists the password requirements here. So just type it in both boxes and hit edit to change your password. And this last section here, this batch upload settings, this is something that only member accounts will see. If you are a data analyst or a delegate, this will not be part of your user profile page. And here first we have the batch upload mode, which is a drop-down that will say either test or production. And this is to be used when you are first creating a batch upload system. If you set this upload mode to test and try to upload information, it'll go through the process so that you can see if you're working or not, but it will not actually enter the information into the database. It'll be flagged as test information and will not actually be counted. Once you have your system running and you're good to go, then you can change this batch upload mode to production, and then any future files that you upload will actually be put into the database officially. Below that, we have the batch notification user. And this is a drop-down that will list all of the member accounts in your group. So this is the person that you want all batch uploads for your group to receive emails on whether they are successful or they are failed. And below that is the batch notifications, which you can choose options on when emails are sent to that batch notification user. So you can check either to send an email on a successful upload, send an email on a failed upload, or both, depending. Now, the one thing I will mention for all of these settings is that they are not specific to your personal account. These are actually shared by the entire group. So if you change the batch notification settings, for instance, that will change for your entire group, not just you. Below that, we have the FTPS server credentials, and this is just a checkbox where you can create or reset your FTPS login password, which if you need more information on what the FTPS server is and how to use it, you can look in the batch submission spec, and that will give you some more information as to how that works. So for any of this information, if you want to change anything in your profile manager, just go ahead and change it on the right side of the page, then hit this edit profile button in the bottom. You'll receive a real quick message saying that things have been changed, and you also get an email at your email address telling you that your account has been updated. So next we're going to take a look at this Users tab, which gives you the User's Manual. And remember, this tab is only available to member accounts. Delegates and data analysts will not see this page. There are several things that you can do from this page, and the first we're going to go through is this Add User button. This is what you use if you are setting up more accounts for your group. So just click Add User, and it will take you to this short form where you can enter the new user's first and last name, their email account, twice just to make sure that there are no typos there, followed by the account status, which is going to either be active or locked. This needs to be active if you actually want them to be able to log in. If it's locked, then they will essentially be locked out of the website and cannot log in to the database. Below that is the group, which you should only have one option available. It's the group that you are also a member for. Followed by the user type. Now this is where you choose exactly which kind of user they are going to be, a member, data analyst, or a delegate. Below that is an area to enter a password. So you can enter a password for them, but you don't have to. If you leave these two fields blank, the system will automatically generate a password for them, and that will be included in the email they are sent. So when you're done filling out this form, you can just hit this Add User button. And then one of two things will happen. Either you will get a message saying that the mail has been sent to the user and you are good to go, the account has been set up. The other thing that might happen is if you are trying to set someone up that already has another account associated with their email address. Say you are trying to set up a shop as a delegate, but that shop is already set up under another tank car owner. In that case, there will be a message in red right here saying that that account has already been used for a different TCID account. If that is the case, you have a couple different options. If you want to have this person be a member or a data analyst, you fill out a contact form and you can request that the TCID administrators create a new email address for that person. They will create an email address at the rsiaarproject.com domain, and then we will send that account information to the user. You can then use that email address for the new account. The other option you have, if you are just trying to set up a delegate and all you want them to do is to be able to enter information, you can again fill out a contact form and you request that their existing account, so make sure you list the email address, gains an additional association for your group. That will allow them to log into their account, and then in the inspections area, they will be able to choose which group they are entering information into. I will show you how they do that a little later in the presentation in the inspections page. The next thing we're going to look at is this List Users button. And this is a list of all of the user accounts in your group. You can see John Doe here at the bottom is the one we just created. And it also lists this point of contact. Now, this is the primary account for your group. They are set up as a member. This is usually the account that the administrators set up. And then they can set up other users. The point of contact is the person that we will contact if there are any problems or questions we have that we need to work out with a group. So if at any time that point of contact needs to change, if someone leaves the company or some other situation, go ahead and fill out that contact form to request a point of contact change, and we would be happy to make that change for you. So to edit a profile, you just hit the Edit button next to the profile you want to edit. It will take you back into this form where you can change information and then hit Edit User. This is how a member account can, say, reset a password for a delegate if necessary. And the last thing we can do from this user manager is to delete an account. And to do that, click the checkbox next to the account you want to delete. And then also click this checkbox next to the Delete button. This is a redundancy that we put in there just to make it a little harder to accidentally delete accounts. So once both checkboxes are checked, you can hit the Delete Selected button. And then you can say, the user was deleted from the system, and as you can see, John Doe is no longer listed in the users. So the next page is the inspections page. So this is where you actually input information into the database. So the first thing on this page is this virtual group. So this is something we added recently. It's a pretty new feature. And this is what I was talking about when I said that you could have people with multiple associations entering information from the same account. So when you go to put in information into the database, make sure you check this virtual group. There's a drop down, and make sure you check the group that you're actually supposed to be putting information in for. As you can see, when I change groups, the list of inspections here changes, signifying that I'm working under a different group. So In the event that you are entering information for records one at a time, as opposed to the batch import, click this New Inspection button, which will take you to the first half of this inspection form. So I'm going to walk through how to fill out this form really quickly. But first, I just want to take a side tour a little bit to a page in the user's manual. So this is a table in the user's manual, page 8, that explains all of the data rules and how to fill out this form. So I'm going to go through it, but you do not have to, memorize everything right now. This is available for future reference anytime you need to look it up. So with that, you're going to start filling out the form. So the first field is actually field 0, this inspection or report type. Options on this field are a series of checkboxes where you check any and all applicable options here. So if you're doing both a stub-sill inspection and an alteration, make sure you check both of those, because the options you choose here will affect which kind of fields you are allowed to fill out later. So if you just check other for everything, you might not actually have access to the fields you need to fill out. Next, you have a car mark where you can type in the correct car mark. And one thing I'll show you real quick, if you type in something that isn't a valid car mark, it will highlight in red, and it'll tell you down here that the value provided isn't valid. Now, if you're trying to enter something and you know it's a valid car mark, but it's saying it's not, go ahead and fill out that contact form and ask for that car mark to be added, and we'll get it entered into the system for you. So once you do have a valid mark, it will turn green. Next, we have the card number. Followed by the station stencil field. Now, this is the station stencil of the inspecting company or facility. As a note, this should be the M1002 car facility station stencil, as opposed to the M1003 QA station stencil. Sometimes those are two different things. Just choose it from the drop-down menu. Followed by the stencil class. And this is the current car specification as stenciled before any modifications are done to the car. Field 5, you just type in the shop location. This is an alphanumeric field with a 30-character maximum. Followed by the state or province. That's available from a drop-down. At field 7, we have the built date of the car. Another drop-down, so you can choose the built date here. Followed by the date of the work or inspection. So the date the repair was done, the date the inspection was done is another drop-down. Field number 9 is just, is the car jacketed, yes or no? Now, fields 10 and 11 are the only two here that aren't actually required for anything. They are left open for whatever the inspector or tank car owner might feel needs to be in here. There's nothing required here. It's really just for use by whoever's doing the work. So those two fields are also alphanumeric, and they have a 30-character maximum. In field 12, you have the original AAR certificate of construction number. So this is an alphanumeric field with an 8-character maximum and a 5-character minimum. Field 13 is a drop-down of different builders. You choose the builder code as per UMLR. Followed by the stub sill design style as inspected. Again, this one's kind of important as it will actually change some options you have further down in the form. So it's important to make sure you get this one accurate. Field 15, we have the stub sill design variation. You can see it's grayed out here. That's because the options I chose in the very first field do not require this to be filled out. If I hit tank qualification, for example, you see it becomes selectable as continuous or non-continuous. For field 16, we have a numeric field that's the total miles of the car in thousands of miles. And yes, this is the cumulative mileage from the time the car was built, and it is required. So I'm going to put in 23 here, which does signify that the car has been running for 23,000 miles. For field 17, we have the constructed car specification, which is again available through a drop-down menu, and the car specification after modification. So if you're doing an alteration or a conversion that changes the car specification, that's what goes in here. Field 19 is the nature of damage. And this is, again, a drop-down of it's an accident, non-accident, or NA if there's no actual damage to be reported. Field 20 is railroad responsibility. Choose yes if any part of the cost is attributable to the railroad. Otherwise, choose no. Field 21 is the stub sill deformation, and these are just a couple of checkboxes to check if there is stub sill deformation at the A end or the B end, and you can check either one, both, or neither. Field 22 is another drop-down with the year of the last tank qualification. And the last part of this is field 23 to check if there was a tank containment failure. If not, just leave that unchecked. Lastly, type in the facility representative, so the person who is actually doing the work or signed off on the work, and the person submitting the information. Once these are all filled out, you'll see a bunch of things highlighted in green. And you can then hit the next button. If any of these are red or not filled out when they need to be, you will not be able to hit the next button until you finish filling that out. We'll hit next, which will bring up the second half of this form. So this is where you actually start putting in information about the work that was done or the inspections that were completed. The first part of that is this field 24 for alterations and conversions. Now again, we're going to look back up at this field 0. If you don't have an alteration or conversion checked, this button here will say disabled and you will not be able to put anything into this field. But since we checked alteration up here earlier, we can now add a drawing. If you click that button, you get a little pop-up with 3 different fields. Now, the first is the change category, where you can choose basically what kind of drawing you are referencing here, or also commodity if the alteration or conversion is a commodity change. For now, I'm going to say it was an assembly drawing. Next, you have the new drawing part or commodity ID number to type in here. This is an alphanumeric field with a 50-character maximum. If the change category is set at commodity, do know that the text in this field should include either owner or AAR TCC. Last, we have the approval reference, which is the number of the AAR approval that supports the alteration or conversion. Again, it's an alphanumeric field, this one with a 10-character maximum. And if there is no particular approval reference, NA It should be put in there. So once these three are filled out, you can hit the Add Drawing button, which will then create one line in this table right here. So if there are multiple drawings you need to add in here, you can again hit the Add Drawing button, fill it out again, and more lines will show up as you go. But once you do have at least one line in here, that's when you will be able to get to this comment section. Where you can see how many characters you have available to you. There's a 350 character maximum. And if at any point you remove all of the drawings in this table, you will lose access to your comments as well. So make sure you always have at least one if you have comments to make. The next thing we're going to look at is this attachment weld inspection. So this is if you're doing a stub sill inspection. This is where that information is put in. You hit the attachment weld inspection button, another pop-up will come up, where the first field is inspection results. So there's a drop-down that has two options, defects found and no exceptions found. So if you did an inspection but there were no cracks to report, hit the no exceptions found button, which will auto-populate the rest of the form. Then all you have to do is hit add weld or tank defect, and it will show up here. So this basically just says there was an inspection done, but no problems were found. I am, however, going to remove that so that we can see what to do when you do have a defect. So back at this pop-up, choose the defects found option, and then you'll get access to the rest of this form. First, we have the weld code, which are codes designating the different welds available, depending on the stub sill design you chose earlier in the form. These can all be found on templates for each stub sill, and I will show you how those templates work and where they are found a little later. But for now, we're just going to choose one of the codes, followed by the location, which identifies the location on the car of the weld defect. So basically A end or B end for this option. Followed by the inspection technique that was used, and the number of cracks that were found there, and the maximum length in inches. So you don't actually have to write out units here, just type in the number and it will assume it's in inches. Next, we have 3 crack orientation code fields. Now you can fill in one or more of these, but you do not necessarily have to fill in all. For example, if I have a weld crack that started in the toe to pad weld and then continued into the pad parent metal, I can choose both of those options, but if it didn't go any further than that, I can leave the third one blank. The last part of this form is the how repaired, where you can choose how it was repaired here. Once everything is filled out, hit the add weld or tank defect button, and it will be entered into that table. So you can see with the crack orientation codes, you know, the first 2 I did fill out, and the third one's just left blank because there was no third code. So the last section of this form is the record shell or sill damage button. When we click that, we get one more pop-up. So you start by choosing the failed component, if there is one, which then again allows you access to the rest of the form. You can choose the failure type, and the options here actually depend on which failed component you chose. Next, we have the failure cause and how it was repaired. Then we have a crack or defect length. Again, it's in inches, so all you need to do is type in the number. the repair location, so the location on the car, and again, the inspection technique that was used when it was found. Once this is all filled out, hit the Add Shell or Sill Damage button, and the last table will be populated. So when you are done entering information, you have two options down at the bottom here. You can either just directly submit your inspection, or if you don't have all of the information you need, or you need to verify that some of it is correct, you can instead save the inspection and then come back and edit it later when you get more information. So we're going to save it for now. So it's been saved successfully. And then you can come to this List Open Inspections button. On this page, you'll see a list of all inspections that are not yet submitted. Once you submit something, it will no longer be on this list. So you can see here, this bottom one is the one we just filled out and just saved. So on this page, member accounts can see all of the saved inspections for their group, while delegates will only see the inspections they started themselves. So to go back in and edit one of these inspections, just hit the Edit button, which will again take you back to that form where you can change or add information. Once everything is complete and completely correct, you can then hit Submit Inspection. It will tell you that it's been saved and submitted successfully. And then when you go back to that List Open Inspections, you can see that it is no longer at the bottom of my list. Next thing you can do here is if you have an inspection started and then find out that you actually don't need to submit it for whatever reason, just click the checkbox here and Delete Selected button, and it will just be deleted from the list entirely. One new thing we have added as well, if you have a member account, you can actually unsubmit records from the database. So say someone accidentally submitted something before it was complete or with incorrect information, you can come here to find and type in the car mark and car number if necessary. And that will bring up everything for that car mark and number that has been submitted into the database. So this is the one we just submitted a little while ago. Click the checkbox and Unsubmit Selected. Let's say it was successfully unsubmitted. Go back to the List Open Inspections page, and you can see once again it is in that list, and I can edit it. So the last section of this inspections page is this batch import. And this is where you can upload batch submission files to the database by hitting the Choose File button, browsing for the file, and then hitting Upload File. For more information and specifics on how to create that batch submission file, you can look at the batch submission specification, which is in the documentation tab that I will point out in just a little bit. The next large part of the database that we're going to look at is this reports page. This reports page has up to 3 reports, depending on what user type you have. First, we have the inspection summary, which is only available to members and data analysts, not delegates. To run that report, hit the PDF button under the Run column, and it will bring up just a basic summary of all records in TCID for your group. So let's car mark and number, the user that submitted it, the date of entry or when it was last modified, and then whether or not it has been submitted. So these that say no are still listed in my open inspections. The second is the single inspection summary, and this is the only report that delegates do have access to. So this one is when you were looking for information on a specific car. We'll look for a specific car mark and number. Just type that in and then hit the Run button. That will bring up a PDF that has detailed information on the most recent record for that car. And the last report we have is a newer one. People asked if they could get information in a spreadsheet format as opposed to a PDF so that they can do their own analysis and filtering for information. So we created this service history by group. And here, select your group. You should only have one option for now. And then hit the Run button. But this report is significantly larger than the other ones and takes a little longer to run. So you get this pop-up saying that it has been scheduled. Then you can hit the OK button. These usually take between 10 and 15 minutes to run. And once it is finished, you will receive an email notifying you that your report is ready. So to access that file, come to this List Data Files link. If you click that, you will get a list of all of the service history reports that have been run in the last 30 days. So you can see this one at the bottom is the one that I just scheduled now. And once it's finished running, it will say complete and have some download option here to the right. So I'll just show you real quick what those look like when they are finished. So you'll get a spreadsheet that will list all of the information for all of your records in TCID. These can get to be very large files, but you should have everything so you can filter and look at really what you're looking for. The next section we're going to look at is this documentation tab. So this tab is actually available even if you're not logged into TCID, so you don't necessarily have to have an account to see these. And this is broken up into several sections, the first of which is the templates. And these are the data templates that I mentioned briefly earlier. I have one open here for one of the stub cell designs. So the templates will have on the right side a sketch that points out the different welds that are supposed to be inspected during a stub cell inspection. Those welds will have codes associated with them. So this is what they mean by weld code on that inspection report. A brief description of that code, the location options, and a little bit about what's supposed to be inspected. This is usually done in a couple different pages, the first one being pad to tank welds, and the second one being sill to pad welds. If you are using a generic template, the format might be a little different, but we've actually mostly gotten rid of those by this point. So most things should look like this. The next section is the list specifications. And this is where you find the user's manual, which, yes, is available on every page, but this is where it technically lives. And then there's also the TCID batch submission spec that I kept referencing. So this is where you find that. And a batch file example, which is just an example CSV file for your reference when you are creating your batch upload system. Next, we have some supporting documents, which is something of a miscellaneous area where we have a few things. First thing I'm going to point out is, if I can find it, yes, the sill design template mapping. So this is a page, a PDF, that lists all of the sill design options and the data template that it uses. So if you're not sure which of those templates to use, you can look at this table right here, find the SIL design you're talking about, and it will tell you which template to look at. Next, we have a data dependencies PDF. This isn't actually something that most people will need to reference, as all of the logic explained in this is all built into the system already. But sometimes when people are setting up some batch upload things, they might need to take a look at this table. So this just shows, if I zoom in a little bit, that record shell or SIL damage section. So it lists all of the different components that might have damage, and then the X's indicate which options are available for that component. We have a similar thing in the stub SIL design reporting matrix. Again, all the information there is available on the individual templates, but if you're looking for an overall view, that can be shown there for that attachment weld inspection area. The last thing we're going to look at here is this AAR form TCID-1. And this is a printable form that mimics everything you find on the inspection form on the website. So this is something you can print out and hand to your inspectors so that they can fill out the information as they're doing their work. That way you can make sure that all necessary information is gathered correctly. Next section here is this notice of implementation page. So this is requested by users that we provide some notification when certain changes were going to be made, mostly because sometimes some of the changes we make affect the kind of coding that batch upload users need to do. So if they need to change their code, they ask that we give them notice of that. So when we make a big change like that, we send out a notice of implementation, which should be 90 days. That will send out an email to all TCID users saying that a new notice has been put up and directing you to this page to see what is changing. So it will list a notification ID and the notice date, as well as the target implementation date, followed by the actual implementation date. So if something has not yet been implemented, this column will be left blank. So if an implementation is coming up, but you're not sure if it's actually been pushed through yet, you can take a look here just to see if that's been done. Next, you have a description of the changes taking place, as well as links to the files that are changing with that implementation. Lastly, we do have an FAQ page. These are just some common questions that we get through the contact form. We decided to put them all on one page just so that for easier reference. So last, this contact page itself is one of the big links at the top, which if you click it, will take you to this form here, where you can enter your full name, your contact email address and phone number, your owner's mark if you are a tank car owner, as well as your company name and address. Then in this message section, you can type in your question or whatever issue you're having, followed by a human verification. Just type in the numbers with the colons that you see here. This is just to make sure you're not a robot. So once everything is filled out, hit the send message button, and that will send an email to the TCID administrators with your message, and then they will respond to you to hopefully get your question answered or your problem resolved. And with that, we come to the end of what I have for the presentation. So I'm going to start in with questions. Because we have so many people on the presentation and to avoid too much noise and people talking over each other, I'm going to request that if you have a question, you go to the chat bubble in your Join Me application. It should be the second bubble from the right. Has a little chat icon. And if you type in your questions there, I will then read them off to the group and answer them. Now questions, that one might be a first. Oh, okay, we do have one. Okay. The question here is, if I run the service history by group report for my company, will I see R1 items as well as inspection or repairs? Yes. We're trying not to call it R1 anymore because technically the R1 form is no longer used. But you will see any alteration or conversion information on that report, yes. Sure thing. Okay, another question here. What if one has multiple car marks? Does one need multiple email addresses? The answer to that is no. As long as all of those car marks belong to the same tank car owner, you can put them in with one account. It's only if you are trying to enter information for separate tank car owners that you would need either multiple email addresses or to be added multiple times. Why is this database asking for mileage? Okay, I actually have an answer because that's something that's asked quite a bit. The mileage of a car has actually been in use since SS3 and SS2. So that's where that comes from. It's based on stub-sill inspections, since the stub-sill inspection time frame is dependent both on the mileage of the car and time. Let's see. I believe we normally track mileage since the last qualification. Where do we get total mileage? That I can't actually answer. Again, we have someone else asking where inspecting employees can find mileage information. I don't have the answer to that question. If you set it in a contact form, I can see if I can contact other people that might be able to answer that for you and then let you know. But I don't actually do anything with inspections themselves. Do records get rejected if there is no mileage reported? Well, if you leave that field blank, you won't be able to enter it at all. It'll say that there's an error and it can't be entered. In the case of batch submissions, yes, if you leave that field blank, it will get rejected. Is there another seminar covering alterations and conversions? No, there are no other seminars. What we had here is really just how to use the website. We don't have anything planned on how to, the actual AAR regulations. If you send us questions regarding that, I can try and put you into contact with someone who will have some information that you're looking for, but that's not something that we are going to cover. All right, we've that for a little bit. It doesn't look like there's any other questions coming in. So I guess with that, I will say thank you all for attending. This recording will be put up soon, so you can rewatch it. So thank you, and I hope everyone has a good rest of the day.